Hey guys, this is Justice coming back at you with another review here on Just Horror. Today I wanted to cover the 2022 film The Menu. The film follows a young couple who travels to a remote island to eat at an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises along the way. Now that's all I'm going to say about the plot for the spoiler-free section of the video. I will warn you guys when I'm going to jump into spoilers, although I'm going to imagine most people watching this video have probably already seen the movie since it's a couple of years old now. But maybe you just saw that it just popped up on Netflix and you want to give it a check out. So I'll give you a clear warning before I say some of the spoilers in this film. But one thing I want to immediately give praise to this movie is it came out in the year 2022, an extremely stacked year for horror. I don't think in the last 2 years since that year that we've had as many good movies coming out within a year. Like it just seemed like hit after hit after hit constantly. We had films as Pearl, X, Bodies, 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 Scream 5, Terrifier 2. These are just to name a few of the crazy successes that came out of that year. But this one still managed to be able to stand on its own, which I think is pretty impressive. Now, this film is very much made for foodies and people who know about the food world. I am not someone who knows much of anything about higher class restaurants and all that. And this would be, especially a restaurant such as this one, would be a few $1,000 restaurant to get into. So obviously, I'm not in the demographic for that. I mean, I'm wearing a Walmart hoodie right now, if that says anything. Though this film does follow that storyline, I wouldn't say the plot is inaccessible to everyday people like myself who have never experienced that. I think that it explains stuff in such a way where you understand everything that's going on very well. And that is something that I want to give a huge point in the favor of this film. Another thing that I want to point out is we have this amazing ensemble cast. And the best way I could describe this film is kind of like earlier movie I mentioned a second ago, also from 2022, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. It's not a straight horror comedy, but it does linger into the comedy at many times. And I think that it's very successful in that. And honestly, I prefer these more dry comedies than I do like the actual horror comedies. That's never really been my cup of tea. So things like Bodies, Bodies, Bodies and Scream like are hilarious, but they're not very slapstick. And that's something that I think this one accomplishes very well at avoiding is the slapstick nonsense. Anya Taylor-Joy stars as the lead in this film, and that is already a huge leg up for this movie, at least in my department. She is one of my all-time favorite actresses, and just recently, actually, my boyfriend and I went on like a little bit of a kick and watched a whole bunch of her movies because we're both obsessed with her. We very much have the Anya Taylor-Joy fever in this house.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend, and she is the moment.
Ralph Fiennes, too, is another one of the main actors. He plays the lead villain in this film as Chef Stoic, and his performance in this film is also phenomenal. He bounces off of Anya Taylor-Joy very well, and though there are many points in this film where I don't agree with what his thought processes are, he's very good at making you feel empathy for what he does. And then you have his assistant chef, Elsa, who is also hilarious, played by Feng Shao, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So my apologies if I did say that wrong. But she does a phenomenal job. She's very much a side character in this film, but anytime she's on screen, she always steals the show for me. She has so many great, snarky one-liners. They're just hilarious.
What the hell are these?
These are tortillas. Tortillas deliciosas.
Yeah, so what are these?
These are tortillas, which contain EcoBright's tax records and other documents showing how your company has created invoices with fake charges.
Another one that I want to mention is Nicholas Hoult. He comes in as Anya Taylor-Joy's love interest in the film, and I think that he is very good at playing a bit of a pretentious asshole type boyfriend, honestly, and we'll get more into that when I get into the spoiler section of this video, which while I'm at it, we can just jump there right now anyways. One thing I do want to say, I haven't gotten much into the plot on this film, discussing it other than that synopsis that I gave. I don't want to spoil anything for this movie if you have happened to not see it. I think it's very much a good one to go in blind to. Although I will say that when I originally saw the trailer back when this movie came out and watched the film, it didn't really spoil anything for me. In fact, I had a completely different thought process of where the movie was going to end up going. So if you want to watch the trailer, see if it looks like it's good to you, then go right ahead and do that. And if you've already seen it and just want to hear my thoughts, then continue on in this video. Now that we're in spoiler territory, did anyone else think this movie was going to be about cannibals? Because I 110% thought that it was going to be about cannibals. Honestly, I thought that they were going to be eating people, but that couldn't be any further from what the plot ended up being. Now, right off the bat, we start off the movie with Anya Taylor-Joy and Nicholas Holt's character, Margot and Tyler. And one thing I want to say is that this movie, especially on rewatch value, it's really interesting seeing everything over once again. Once you realize that Margot and Tyler aren't actually together, that she's just a paid prostitute. Rewatching the film this time, it was very interesting seeing all the little choices in dialogue that they sprinkled throughout to lead you up to that. And I think it was a very well thought out twist, even though it wasn't this huge, like, oh shit moment. For me, anyways, I still appreciated that they did sprinkle that stuff. Not only that, too, but the chemistry between Anya Taylor Joy and Phineas's character is very exciting to watch as the two of them go back and forth off of each other throughout the film as he's trying to figure out who exactly she is because she wasn't on the original idea for who was going to be at the dinner. And all their little solo scenes constantly have you at the edge of your seat. And honestly, I think they both just eat the screen the entire time that they're there. From the moment that they get onto the island, though, it's very much cult vibes. And it's part of the reason that I don't think Chef Stoic is as grounded as he makes himself sound to be, or even as much as the movie might think he is at times. At least for me personally, I found some of his rhetoric throughout the film that he was pouring out on people to be very hypocritical at times. Though there were some things that I was able to understand where he was coming from, it wasn't everything. And there was a lot of things where I just kind of things just didn't sit right with me, I guess is the best way to put it. Right off the bat, you can tell between all the tables in this ensemble cast that there's very much a class divide here of all these different rich people who have paid upwards of thousands of dollars to go to this hoity-toity restaurant. There's even points where Margot, Taylor Joy's character, even talks about how they're literally eating the plants off of rocks. And at one point, even when Tyler is giving her shit, she looks at him and it's just like, eat your rock, essentially, just to tell him to shut up. And it very much shows you the divide there is from rich people and poor people in a way, and how it just sucks the joy out of food when it's something that like we should all be able to enjoy. There's even another scene which I think hits it right on the nose. And the way I'm going to say it might sound like it was overly spoon fed, but I think the way that they handled it was very well done. But there's another dish they bring out in the movie that is all these sauces that go on bread, and there's no bread because bread is a poor man's food. So why would they have that in the mix of the food for all these people who paid these thousands of dollars? Like they don't deserve bread. They're rich. They don't need it. So that's the whole concept behind the dish. And again, Anya Taylor Joy's character is just like, oh, this is a fucking joke because she doesn't get it because she doesn't have that hoity-toity bullshit mindset that all these other people do. There's two food critics that are sitting a couple tables away from them, and they are amongst many of the very pretentious people in this film, but they are constantly being over articulate about how they describe these foods and being over the top. And then they're also nitpicking about all the smallest things that they can.
We're eating the ocean.
We're eating the ocean.
You can just very much see how separated from reality that all of these people are from what everyday people do and like care about. Now, when the movie takes a turning point and actually starts getting into the horror, and I would say this is probably one of the more explicit deaths in the movie, but I wouldn't describe any of the deaths in this movie as overly explicit. Like, this isn't your gore fest that you should be expecting to walk into at all. It's very much more about building the tension rather than splattering blood and guts all over the place. So if you're not into that, then like this movie probably is for you. But they introduce the meal of the mess, and they have a cook come out who thinks that he can't be as good as Chef Stoic, and he's never going to accomplish his dreams, and he's never going to amount to anything in this life, and that his life is worthless. And he shoots himself right in front of all the other customers in the restaurant. And creates the mess on this huge tarp right in the middle of the floor for everyone to see. And at this point, they're trying to convince themselves, like, oh yeah, maybe this is like an actor or something. And like, oh, like this can't actually be happening. But then I think the point's nailed into the coffin for them that this is real when they see one of the other table attendants try to escape and he gets his finger chopped off. And at that point on, I think the film just hits the wall, balls running throughout. Now, the rest of the movie is the characters trying to figure out how to escape and then fruitlessly not making it there because everything that goes on throughout the night, Chef Stoic has planned 110%. Eventually, though, another one of the dishes that we get to is Tyler's dish, and Chef Stoic ends up making him a chef. And Tyler's gimmick throughout the whole movie is that he loves the food, but he's not an actual cook. He doesn't know how to cook. He just knows everything about it and sucks the joy out of it. And that is something that I took a little bit of issue on. And maybe it's just because people who analyze movies, analyze food, just analyze the art that they love are kind of like Tyler in a way where they get too excited about all this stuff. And it's like almost directly calling the critics out because though Tyler knows everything about these dishes, exactly what the chefs are putting into it, without even telling them exactly how it was cooked, this, that, and the other, he knows every last little thing. Yet when he gets told to cook a dish for Chef, it gets presented as Tyler's bullshit. And even the chef calls it out and says how awful it is.
Ew! What an interesting artifact.
It's one of the more tense scenes in the film, definitely, I would say, even if I felt like maybe a little bit called out by it. And I know a lot of other people definitely had to feel a little bit called out by it that enjoys analyzing the art that they love. But it is a very well done scene and eventually leads to Tyler hanging himself after Chef whispers something in his ear. And essentially, what I'm going to imagine he probably said to him was something along the lines of is that like he has no art and that he is useless in this life. And Tyler couldn't take hearing that coming from the man that he idolizes so much. As this is all going on, Margot is trying to plan her escape. And it's around this time that we find out that she was a prostitute that was hired by Tyler, who she had no idea that people were going to die at this island, that they were all supposed to die. Furthermore, she didn't know that Tyler already knew that. And she just came because she was hired. She's a prostitute. It's her job. Now, this is going to lead to another scene where eventually we have a talk between Chef Stoic and Anya Taylor-Joy where they are discussing their craft for art, where she talks about how being a prostitute, she used to love it, versus now it's just a job for her. And he says the same thing, that he used to love to cook, but now it's just become a job for him as well, and he doesn't care about it. And this all eventually leads up to a scene later in the movie where Anya Taylor-Joy is trying to find a way to escape, and she goes into his house and finds a room that's been locked up and gets her way in and sees a picture of him back in the 80s cooking on a grill at this restaurant and being the employee of the month, and he has a smile on his face and the happiest his characters look the entire film in this old picture, because back then he knew the joy of food versus now it's been sucked out of him by all these people that he essentially looks at as ruining his life and taking away the thing that he cared about most. Right as Erin thinks that she isn't going to be able to escape from this hellish night and that she's going to die with everybody else, she ends up going up to Chef Stoic. And I will say right here, Anya Taylor-Joy's performance completely snatched. Like the bitch ate the screen. She ate and left no fucking crumbs for anyone, and she called out Chef Stoic.
Your single purpose on this earth is to serve people food that they might actually like, and you have failed. You failed, and you've bored me. And the worst part is, I'm still fucking hungry.
She essentially tells him that she is still hungry and that the service tonight and the food have been subpar, and she wants to send her food back and get something else. To which he's very surprised, doesn't understand why she didn't like the meal that she was given. And eventually this leads to her ordering a cheeseburger and saying she doesn't want any of that fancy shit. She just wants a cheeseburger with good old fashioned American cheese on it. And Chef Stoic is caught off guard by this, but eventually makes the food for her and she asks for it to go and she quietly escorts it out of the movie. I can see why some people wouldn't like the ending of this film with that, but personally, I love it. He's surrounded by all these people that he views as destroying his career, and here she is giving him a reminder of why he even loved cooking in the first place and why it was his passion. And he gave her the chance to go because he realized that she wasn't like any of them there, that she didn't belong there at all. Now, as this is going on, she rides off in a boat away from the island, and everyone else is left inside. And he puts this like marshmallow jacket essentially over their shoulders, this big chocolate hat, and tells them that he's making human s'mores and he lights the place up. Now, this is the death I was talking about a couple minutes ago, where I was like, that's the most shocking. Because I know when I was watching it for the first time, I was sitting there like, are you fucking kidding me? They're actually making human s'mores right now. But anyways, that about wraps up the movie. It literally ends with Anya Taylor-Joy riding away, and she opens her to-go order and casually starts eating her burger, and it cuts to credits. Now, I think this is a really good movie, and I think that it's yet another phenomenal performance from Anya Taylor-Joy, along with the rest of the cast. Like, this is a very well casted movie, if anything else, and the set design in this movie is just completely gorgeous. Like, honestly, it's on Netflix right now, so go watch it. What are you doing? Leave this video. But anyways, though, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Take care.